Ars. Ars is the Greek god of war. He is one of the 12 Olympians, and the son of Zeus and Hera. In Greek literature, he often represents the physical, violent and untamed aspect of war, in contrast to his sister the armored Athena, whose functions as a goddess of intelligence include military strategy and generalship. The Greeks were ambivalent toward Ars, although he embodied the physical valor necessary for success in war. He was a dangerous force, overwhelming, insatiable in battle, destructive, and manslaughtering. His sons, Phobos and Deimos, and his lover, or sister, Enyo, accompanied him on his war chariot. In the Iliad, his father Zeus tells him that he is the god most hateful to him. An association with Ars endows places an object with a savage, dangerous, or militarized quality. His value as a war god is placed in doubt. During the Trojan War, Ars was on the losing side, while Athena, often depicted in Greek art as holding Nike in her hand, favored the triumphant Greeks. Ars plays a relatively limited role in Greek mythology as represented in literary narratives, though his numerous love affairs and abundant offspring are often alluded to. When Ars does appear in myths, he typically faces humiliation. He is well known as the lover of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who was married to Hephaestus, god of craftsmanship. The most famous story related to Ars and Aphrodite shows them exposed to ridicule through the wronged husband's device. The counterpart of Ars among the Roman gods is Mars, who as a father of the Roman people was given a more important and dignified place in ancient Roman religion as a guardian deity. During the Hellenization of Latin literature, the myths of Ars were reinterpreted by Roman writers under the name of Mars. Greek writers under Roman rule also recorded cult practices and beliefs pertaining to Mars under the name of Ars. Thus, in the classical tradition of later Western art and literature, the mythology of the two figures becomes virtually indistinguishable. Names. The etymology of the name Ars is traditionally connected with the Greek word, the Ionic form of the Doric, bane, ruin, curse, imprecation. There may also be a connection with the Roman god of war, Mars, via hypothetical Proto-Indo-European mres. Compare ancient Greek mu alpha rho nu alpha mu alpha iota, I fight, I battle. Walter Beckert notes that Ars is apparently an ancient abstract noun meaning throng of battle, war. R.S.P. Beeks has suggested a pre-Greek origin of the name. The earliest attested form of the name is the Mycenaean Greek, Ari, written in the Linear B syllabic script. The adjectival epithet, erios, was frequently appended to the names of other gods when they took on a warrior aspect or became involved in warfare. Zeus erios, Athena aurea, even Aphrodite aurea. In the Iliad, the word Ars is used as a common noun synonymous with battle. Inscriptions as early as Mycenaean times, and continuing into the classical period, attest to Enyalios as another name for the god of war. Character, origins, and worship. Influence. Brooklyn Museum Archives, Goodyear Archival Collection. Ars was one of the 12 Olympians in the archaic tradition represented by the Iliad and Odyssey. Zeus expresses a recurring Greek revulsion toward the god when Ars returns wounded and complaining from the battlefield at Troy. Then looking at him darkly, Zeus, who gathers the clouds, spoke to him, "Do not sit beside me and whine, you double-faced liar. To me you are the most hateful of all gods who hold Olympus. Forever quarreling is dear to your heart, wars and battles. ... And yet I will not long endure to see you in pain, since you are my child. And it was to me that your mother bore you. But were you born of some other god, and proved so ruinous long since, you would have been dropped beneath the gods. of the bright sky. This ambivalence is expressed also in the Greeks' association of the god with the Thracians, whom they regarded as a barbarous and warlike people. Thrace was Ares' birthplace, his true home, and his refuge after the affair with Aphrodite was exposed to the general mockery of the other gods. A late 6th century BC funerary inscription from Attica emphasizes the consequences of coming under Ares' sway. Stay and mourn at the tomb of dead Croesus, whom raging Ars destroyed one day, fighting in the foremost ranks. Ars in Sparta. In Sparta, Ars was viewed as a model soldier. His resilience, physical strength, and military intelligence were unrivaled. Human sacrifices were offered to him, an extraordinary practice, normally extremely taboo in ancient Greece. An ancient statue, representing the god in chains, suggests that the martial spirit and victory were to be kept in the city of Sparta. That the Spartans admired him is indicative of the cultural divisions that existed between themselves and other Greeks, especially the Athenians. That historians generally regard the majority of ancient Greeks as disliking the god is also a sign of how the culture of all of Greece has often become conflated with that of Athens, because only it has left behind a significant legacy of texts and archaeology. Ars in the Arabian Peninsula. Ars was also worshipped by the inhabitants of Tylis. It is not known if he was worshipped in the form of an Arabian god, or if he was worshipped in his Greek form. Attributes. The Ars bore gazer. The birds of Ars were a flock of feathered dark-dropping birds that guarded the Amazons' shrine of the god on a coastal island in the Black Sea. Cult and ritual. Although Ars received occasional sacrifice from armies going to war, the god had a formal temple and cult at only a few sites. At Sparta, however, each company of youths sacrificed a puppy to Enyalios before engaging in ritual fighting at the Phoebeum. The Chthonic nighttime sacrifice of a dog to Enyalios became assimilated to the cult of Ars. Just east of Sparta stood an archaic statue of the god in chains, to show that the spirit of war and victory was to be kept in the city. The temple to Ars in the Agora of Athens, which Pausanias saw in the 2nd century AD, had been moved and rededicated there during the time of Augustus. Essentially it was a Roman temple to the Augustan Mars altar. From archaic times, the Areopagus, the Mount of Ars at some distance from the Acropolis, was the site of trials. Paul the Apostle later preached about Christianity there. Its connection with Ars, perhaps based on a false etymology, is etiological myth. A second temple to Ars has been located at the archaeological site of Metropolis in what is now western Turkey. Attendance. Deimos, terror or dread, and Phobos, fear or horror, are his companions in war. According to Hesiod, they were also his children, born by Aphrodite. Eris, the goddess of discord, or Enyo, the goddess of war, bloodshed, and violence, was considered the sister and companion of the violent Ars. In at least one tradition, Enyalius, rather than another name for Ars, was his son by Enyo. Ars may also be accompanied by Kaidoimos, the demon of the din of battle. The Makai, the Hymenae, Polemos, a minor spirit of war, or only an epithet of Ars, since it has no specific dominion, and Polemos' daughter, Alala, the goddess a personification of the Greek war cry, whose name Ars uses as his own war cry. Ares' sister Hebe also draws baths for him. According to Pausanias, local inhabitants of Therapna, Sparta, recognized Ero, feral, savage, as a nurse of Ars. Founding of Thebes. One of the roles of Ars was expressed in mainland Greece as the founding myth of Thebes. Ars was the progenitor of the water dragon slain by Cadmus, for the dragon's teeth were sown into the ground as if a crop, and sprang up as the fully armored, autochthonic Spartois. To propitiate Ars, Cadmus took his bride Harmonia, a daughter of Ares' union with Aphrodite. In this way, Cadmus harmonized all strife and founded the city of Thebes. Consorts and children. The Areopagus is viewed from the Acropolis. The union of Ars and Aphrodite created the gods Eros, Antares, Phobos, Deimos, Harmonia, and Adrestia, while Eros and Antares godly stations favored their mother. Adrestia preferred to emulate her father, often accompanying him to war. Other versions include Alcippe as one of his daughters. Upon one occasion, Ars incurred the anger of Poseidon by slaying his son, Halorotheus, because he had raped Alcippe, a daughter of the war god. For this deed, Poseidon summoned Ars to appear before the tribunal of the Olympic gods, which was held upon a hill in Athens. Ars was acquitted. This event is supposed to have given rise to the name Areopagus, which afterward became famous as the site of a court of justice. Accounts tell of Syconnus of Macedonia, a son of Ars who was so murderous that he tried to build a temple with the skulls and the bones of travelers. Heracles slaughtered this abominable monstrosity, engendering the wrath of Ars, whom the hero wounded in conflict. Other accounts. The Ludovici Ars, Roman version of a Greek original c. 320 BC, with 17th-century restorations by Bernini in the tale sung by the bard in the hall of Alcinous. The sun god Helios once spied Ars and Aphrodite enjoying each other secretly in the hall of Hephaestus, her husband. He reported the incident to Hephaestus. Contriving to catch the illicit couple in the act, Hephaestus fashioned a finely knitted and nearly invisible net with which to snare them. At the appropriate time, this net was sprung, and trapped Ars and Aphrodite locked in very private embrace. But Hephaestus was not satisfied with his revenge, so he invited the Olympian gods and goddesses to view the unfortunate pair. For the sake of modesty, the goddesses demurred, but the male gods went to witness the sight. Some commented on the beauty of Aphrodite. Others remarked that they would eagerly trade places with Ars. But all who were present mocked the two. Once the couple were loosed, Ars, embarrassed, returned to his homeland, Thrace, and Aphrodite went to Paphos. In a much later interpolated detail, Ars put the youth Electrian by his door to warn them of Helios' arrival, as Helios would tell you Hephaestus of Aphrodite's infidelity if the two were discovered, but Electrian fell asleep. Helios discovered the two and alerted Hephaestus. Furious Ars turned the sleepy Electrian into a rooster, which now always announces the arrival of the sun in the morning. Ars and the Giants. In one archaic myth, related only in the Iliad by the goddess Dione to her daughter Aphrodite, two chthonic giants, the Alodi, named Otis and Ephialtes, threw Ars into chains and put him in a bronze urn, where he remained for 13 months, a lunar year. And that would have been the end of Ars and his appetite for war, if the beautiful Eryboea, the young giant's stepmother, had not told Hermes what they had done. She related, "In this one suspects a festival of license which is unleashed in the 13th month. Ars was held screaming and howling in the urn until Hermes rescued him, and Artemis tricked the Alodi into slaying each other. In non-use Dionysiaca, Ars also killed Echidnades, the giant son of Echidna, and a great enemy of the gods. Scholars have not concluded whether the nameless Echidnades was entirely non-use invention or not." Iliad. In the Iliad, Homer represented Ars as having no fixed allegiances, rewarding courage on both sides. He promised Athena and Hera that he would fight on the side of the Achaeans, but Aphrodite persuaded Ars to side with the Trojans. During the war, Diomedes fought with Hector and saw Ars fighting on the Trojans' side. Diomedes called for his soldiers to fall back slowly. Athene, or Athena, Ares' sister, saw his interference and asked Zeus, his father, for permission to drive Ars away from the battlefield, which Zeus granted. Hera and Athena encouraged Diomedes to attack Ars. Diomedes thrust with his spear at Ars, with Athena driving it home, and Ares' cries made Achaeans and Trojans alike tremble. Ars fled to Mount Olympus, forcing the Trojans to fall back. When Hera mentioned to Zeus that Ares' son, Ascalaphus, was killed, Ars overheard, and wanted to join the fight on the side of the Achaeans, disregarding Zeus' order that no Olympic god should enter the battle, but Athena stopped him. Later, when Zeus allowed the gods to fight in the war again, Ars was the first to act, attacking Athena to avenge himself for his previous injury. Athena overpowered him by striking Ars with a boulder. Renaissance. In Renaissance and neoclassical works of art, Ares' symbols are a spear and helmet. His animal is a dog, and his bird is the vulture. In literary works of these eras, Ars is replaced by the Roman Mars, a romantic emblem of manly valor rather than the cruel and bloodthirsty god of Greek mythology. In popular culture, Ars figures in war-themed video games and in popular fictions. NASA named their transport ship as Ars, which replaced the Space Shuttle. This was an extension of NASA's practice of using Roman and Greek names for their rockets and programs. Saturn for manned rockets, Mercury for a satellite program, and the Apollo program, rather than any association with the nature of the war god. The name of the Greek multi-sports club Aras Thessaloniki is inspired by the god. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below.